Gather round, Illumity stands, Bellows of Horrors, and Gravesfield conspiracy theorists. The first of the final 3 Owl House specials is finally here, and by Titan is it emotional. And I'm not only talking about that big spoiler of a heartbreak, but also how all the underlying themes of the show are starting to tie together. I'm going to be putting together a proper big episode Easter egg breakdown for later in the week, but for now, I really want to talk about some of my immediate thoughts and theories around this episode. From the Nocedas to the original Golden Guard to Luzura confirmed, you're watching Whitney Vision, and here's part 1 of my Thanks to Them breakdown. This is your spoiler warning! If you haven't watched Thanks to Them yet, hit pause on this video and come back once you've unearthed the mysteries of Old Gravesfield. Before we start, I just want to give a round of applause to the Owl House team. The episode was fantastic, and as of this recording, the YouTube upload of it is #1 trending on YouTube. And it seems like this series is finally getting all the praise it deserves. An exec at Disney Television Animation made a point of saying that these views matter, which makes me hopeful that we might actually get that young Eda and Rain spinoff one day. I've covered a lot of shows during my time on this platform, but not only is Owl House my personal favorite, I also think it's the most important. Dana and crew, y'all made legitimate magic. Now for the rest of us, let's take a moment to freak out about all the trauma we just faced. It's tough enough seeing sweet babies Hunter and Luz bottle up so much angst, but to kill off Flapjack, I'm never gonna recover. One of the biggest triggers for me was surprisingly everything involving the Noceda household. I can't believe that there was a point in time when people were accusing Camilla of being abusive. This mama bear has gone through so much, her heart is so big, and she's just trying to do right by her daughter and all of her Boiling Isles foster kids. Seeing her internal conflicts explored thoroughly was such a surprise for an episode when I went in expecting mostly Wittebanes lore. If Hollow Mind wasn't already a massive indicator, this series excels at getting across incredible depth and backstory in short bursts of screen time. Everything we learn about Luz's family in this episode, from Camilla's motivations to Manny's passions, recontextualizes so much of who Luz is and why. Although we found out in Season 2's Reaching Out that Manny passed away due to an illness, little else was known about him. Only recently in the promo clips that led up to this special did we finally learn his name on a box tucked away in a corner. It's not until Gus stumbles upon a closet full of merch from the Star Trek-inspired sci-fi series Cosmic Frontier that we get to learn about who Manny was as a person. And boy did Gus unearth a treasure of information. Not only does it turn out that our sweet little Luz inherited her obsessive nerdy interest from Manny, but we get to see that he brought out this side of Camilla as well. Based on her embarrassment and this wig in the closet of collectibles, Camilla was also a bit of a trekker. My reading is that their shared nerdiness was a cornerstone of their relationship, but even if you argue that Camilla simply humored Manny's nerdy side, I'm sure she brought some serious Hunt-Low energy to the relationship. We learn that Camilla was bullied throughout her school days, which makes me think that these two outcasts found a safe space with one another, a recurring theme in the series. As we see, Camilla has a complicated relationship with judgmental outsiders. While she's not afraid to confront people, you can see that she's also sensitive to rude comments. Because of this, I believe she's somewhat guarded about being her true self. Manny, on the other hand, appears to have been an unabashed nerd through and through, just like Luz. He was even dedicated to upgrading his Circuit cosplays over the years. Circuit, of course, being a parallel to Star Trek's Data. And based on the fact that Manny was the one who taught Luz the old gut-spillin' sausage trick, I'd bet 1,000 snails that he was legendary at every convention. Unfortunately, I think that all of Camilla's impassioned nerdiness fell to the back burner when Manny started to exhibit signs of his illness. We can assume that this illness was chronic based on a move to a closer hospital being a necessary decision for the family. As we can see, Camilla has been literally and mentally compartmentalizing Manny's illness and subsequent passing, and I believe part of that process tainted her draw to fantasy. As a widowed single parent, she had to root herself in stark realities and gave into conformity as a means to put up shields for her and her daughter. But even in his final moments, Manny wished for his family to keep their whimsy alive. Even though we all knew how much Luz loves the Good Witch Azura, it turns out that Azura means so much more to her than simply being her favorite fictional story. Luz's last gift from her dad wasn't just a book. It was his last, most loving effort to make sure that she knew how loved she was for her uniqueness and creativity for the rest of her life. He knew he wouldn't be there to watch her grow up and discover who she is, and he made it his mission to help her become her best, truest self even in death. Because of the fun, wonder, curiosity, and mad performance skills Manny taught by example throughout her childhood, Luz grew up to be an inquisitive, confident, passionate storyteller just like her dad. We now know where Luz got her love of costumes, writing, and performing. Luz became obsessed with the Good Witch Azura, building models, hanging posters, and even cutting off her own hair with a sword. And that's because it's a cool book and her dad has cool taste. But it's also because this was the last thing that Luz and her father could do for each other. Separated by the veil of the realms of the living and the dead, Manny shared with his daughter a wellspring of creativity and joy that she could carry with her for her whole life. And Luz got to keep a part of her dad's spirit alive. Manny likely hoped that this series would open Luz's mind, allowing her to dream and invent and evolve. And she did. She moved to the demon realm, became a rare human witch, and took every opportunity along the way to help the ones she loves. Not only did she, a teenage girl, attempt to overthrow the 50-year reign of a fascist and nearly succeed, but she also made every single person she encountered feel loved and seen, even the really bad ones. And that's a part of her we also see the origins to in this episode. Luz's heart and empathy for all people and creatures is clearly influenced by Camilla. Not to say that Manny wasn't a sweetie, I'm sure he was, but Mama Noceda's fierce protectiveness is what makes Luz a great emotional and physical caregiver. For starters, as a veterinarian, Camilla filled Luz with love for and knowledge about animals. But we also see that Camilla is always ready to step up for those in need. Although she never thought she'd be a mother of 6, Camilla is doing a pretty damn good job at it. She truly cares so much about each of Luz's friends and goes so far out of her way to make sure that they're comfortable and happy. In this scene, you can literally see dozens of coupons that she's clipped to make sure that she's saving money when buying food and clothing for a basilisk, 4 witches, and her own child. Then there are her multiple lists of food she's tried and wants to try feeding them. In the same way that the food in the demon realm made Luz's tummy hurt, except for griffin eggs, these guys aren't accustomed to human food. While driving home from school, she even tells Luz that she'll find a way to get the kids actual blood if they can't find suitable apple blood, and later comments that she might try feeding the kids eyeballs after seeing their reaction to a zombie movie. She's literally willing to find blood and eyeballs for these kids. This is exactly where Luz gets her desire to fix all problems and help all people. Also, can we just talk about how amazing Camilla has been since Luz came out? She's rocking a heart-shaped rainbow pin everywhere she goes, and has bought several books about raising a queer child because of her desire to learn everything she possibly can to support her daughter. She even has a bisexual love bracelet that Luz probably made for her. Camilla fully embraces Luz and Amity's relationship without skipping a beat, and continues to love and respect her kid for who she is. We also see that Luz and her friend's self-love starts to rub off on Camilla and pull her out of the rut she fell into when Manny passed. If you look in the trash can, you'll notice that she's thrown away her straightening iron, rejecting society's beauty standards of straight hair and instead embracing her natural hair texture. Camilla deeply regrets sending Luz to that camp for squares, giving into the pressures from others to attempt to strip Luz of her uniqueness. The ingrained pressure she put on Luz to conform is ultimately something that Luz struggles with throughout the series. I mean, it is the catalyst to the whole show after all. In this episode in particular, she's negatively attributed her desire for adventure as the reason for all the woe that has befallen the Boiling Isles. During her outburst in English Lit, she notes that the world would be better if the hero never existed. By the end of the episode, she's resigned to throw in the towel and let her friends move on without her bringing pain into their lives. But Camilla's character arc has put her in a place to support Luz in the way that she needs to be supported. Conformity be damned. She's gonna help her daughter become the person she truly is on the inside, a hero. So when Luz dons her Luzura hat and enters the demon realm, we can see all this Noceda backstory tie together. Manny may be gone, but his influence is right there with them. And although Camilla's journey wasn't flawless, she's there to make right by her daughter. There are many ways to interpret the Thanks to Them episode title, but personally, the heart of the episode to me is how Camilla and Manny were able to raise the future defender of the Boiling Isles. It's thanks to them. This embracing of quirks and uniqueness contrasts with what we've learned about the Wittebanes in this episode. According to Masha's tale on the haunted hayride of the town's spookiest unsolved mystery, Philip and Caleb Wittebanes arrived in Gravesfield as orphaned children in 1613. In a desperate bid to feel approval from others, they became witch hunters, not fully understanding the gravity of joining lynch mobs. It's no coincidence that this entryway into witch hunting is framed as the boys seeking acceptance by conforming to their surroundings. This whole show is an exploration of the link between conformity and fascism. When you grow up being told that thinking outside the lines is a damnable offense, it can warp how you perceive and treat people who are different than you. Philip was so indoctrinated with this external need for approval by the people of Gravesfield that he was driven to kill his own brother. Then we have to factor in the rejection Philip must have felt when his brother rejected the ideology he based his whole personality on, a massive source of whiplash when you build your whole worldview around a black and white morality. I'm wondering if we'll see this thread pulled more in future installments of Season 3. Bellows works incredibly well as a selfish and manipulative villain, but his motivations and commitment to the witch-hunting ideology feels like something that has more room to be woven into the overarching theme of the show. I wouldn't be surprised if we learned that his sibling relationship mirrored Lilith and Ida's. Despite loving Caleb, I could see Philip living in his brother's shadow, coveting the approval of Gravesfield that his brother effortlessly received. When Caleb abandons all that for a witch, just as Ida abandoned fitting into the Coven system, Philip's deep-seated sibling rivalry could have boiled to the surface, fueling his quest for institutional success, much like Lilith. Even now, we see Bellows committed to earning the currently non-existent accolade as Witch Hunter General, something that I'm sure was highly sought after in his original time. Speaking of the Wittebanes, holy titan did we get a ton of new lore, and I believe it confirms the Wittebanes' ties to the Clawthorne family tree. The images in Hollow Mind hinted that Caleb fell in love with a witch with strikingly similar features as Ida, and who was shown to be potentially pregnant. We now know that this witch was known as Evelyn, a name that follows a naming pattern within the Clawthorne family. We already have Idolin and Gwendolyn! Before, we theorized that Ida was related to Caleb on her father's side, but perhaps it was actually on her mother's. In keeping up appearances, we learned that Gwendolyn's grandmother told her the story of a human who lived in the Boiling Isles long ago before mysteriously vanishing. Could Gwendolyn's grandmother / Ida's great-great-grandmother be the daughter of Evelyn, who passed down her parents' star-crossed love story? I'm on the fence about this, though. I still think that there's a good chance Del is the familial link to the Wittebanes, as he shares a lot of similarities with Caleb, from his appearance to his carving skills. We do learn that Flapjack was originally Evelyn's Palismen, not Caleb's, when Bellows goes for the kill shot. But to me, that makes the similarities between Del's Palismen and Flapjack even stronger. Also, side quest, I've seen a lot of confusion that Flapjack's real name is Evelyn or is somehow Evelyn reincarnated, but I don't think that that's the case. In the same way that Bellows roared Caleb's name when he was attacking Hunter in King's Tide after seeing Flapjack on the end of Hunter's staff, he growled, "Goodbye, Evelyn," when he killed Flapjack, finally snuffing out the last part of Evelyn's legacy that had haunted him. I do think that there's a somewhat plausible theory here that Flapjack was holding a part of Evelyn's soul. We've seen in Hollow Mind that the Palismen Bellows consumes had their souls live on within him, and after Flapjack makes a sacrifice to heal Hunter, it seems like their spirits have intertwined in a similar way. It might be possible that Flapjack was also housing a piece of Evelyn's soul, but with only 2 episodes left on the board, I don't see this theory becoming confirmed officially. I do think that there's an interesting implied character arc for Flapjack here, though. Obviously, Flapjack has been helping Hunter since they met, and I think it's likely that he felt years of guilt for not protecting Caleb against Bellows. By sacrificing himself for Hunter, he was able to honor Evelyn and Caleb's memory. If Flapjack's spirit does somehow live on within Hunter, it's going to be interesting to see how that might play out in a climactic rematch with Bellows' forced fusion versus a fusion built on the foundation of respect and love. One of the more puzzling details of this episode was the vial of Titan's blood buried in Old Gravesfield. Based on Masha's stories saying that they used a secret code to travel between worlds, it can be assumed that Caleb and Evelyn used to pass frequently between the human and demon realms. This would make the vial being buried here the equivalent of leaving a spare key under the doormat. Obviously though, the most interesting aspect of all of this is the owl cork. This looks like the same owl that appears to be the basis for the Golden Guard persona, which makes me believe that the Golden Guard predates Bellows' Grimwalker experiments. Was Caleb himself a Golden Guard? If true, and Caleb held this title, who or what was he originally the guardian of? Could it perhaps be the owl deity that fans have theorized will play a big role in the endgame of the series? That mural in the Owl House does have a golden warmth to it. We also know that the Owl House draws a great deal of inspiration from alchemy, and golden alchemy is a symbol of perfection to a divine degree. With his frequent interdimensional travel, did Caleb somehow become an agent of a golden owl god? Perhaps he was the natural protector of the Titans? Or the Owl Beast? Hunter and Gus getting into science fiction tells me that the cosmic scale of magic teased by the Titans in the Collector is only going to play a bigger role as we move into the next episodes. So, is it possible that the Golden Owl is the creator or arbiter of the universe? Is it Hootie? Oh my god, is Hootie the son of the Golden Owl and the nickname Hootsufer is more than a Lucifer pun and actually a subtle hint to his son of God origins? Bill, throw this into the Hootie hole! Speaking of some of my favorite theories from fellow YouTubers, gonna have to give a big ol' tip of the hat to Awestruck Vox of the Roundtable for nailing Luz's Snake Palismen theory so early in the game. This episode has me fully on board with this being the case. In the Roundtable's video, Kevin brings up that the logo for the Owl House has 2 staffs hidden within it. one being the obvious Owlbert for Ida, and the other being a secret snake for Luz. I kept an eye out for all the sneaky clues throughout the episode, and due to the overwhelming amount of evidence, I really think that this theory is right. Not only do snake images pop up constantly, but Luz keeps the egg under a light, like a snake resting under a heating lamp. Also, you can almost see how the egg is shaped like a coiled snake, complete with a hidden sleeping eye. Then consider that many of the pivotal moments of Luz's life involved snakes. For example, that day on the playground when Luz explained that a snake's skin sheds in the process of growth. Both Luz and her mom carried that day with them in different ways going forward. Camilla used the other moms and their kids' reactions to fuel her determination to support and defend Luz's oddities and curiosity at all costs. And whether Luz realizes it or not, her journey has come full circle from the moment she first horrified those children in the sandbox. Like the garter snake, Luz had to shed her skin to grow, evolve, and push the boundaries of her limitless imagination in the demon realm. Which is exactly where the Ouroboros, pictured a couple times in the episode, comes in. On Camilla's nightstand, we see that she framed the garter snake's skin in a circle. And Luz's laptop has a snake twisted into an infinity symbol on it. The image of a snake eating its own tail is an ancient symbol of the cycle of eternal life, death, and rebirth, and its shedding skin represents the transmigration of souls, aka reincarnation. Several characters in this series have gone through a symbolic or literal transformation or rebirth. When Luz stepped through the portal door, she was able to reinvent herself as the powerful witch she became through hard work, dedication, and creativity. Hunter himself is a reincarnation of Caleb Wittebanes as a Grimwalker. King is the living link to his long-dead father, the Titan of the Boiling Isles from which every magic being draws their powers. Even Bellows himself was reborn as a big puddle of splorch, so it would make sense for Luz's journey to culminate in the hatching of the physical representation of her emotional journey. We also know that Luz held a snake in her very first scene in the show, along with Azura. I think that both of these elements, like the Ouroboros, are about to come full circle. The Ouroboros and its infinite spin is also commonly used as iconography in time travel stories, and I think that time travel will play a major role in the conclusion of this series. I theorized back in my breakdown of time pools for Elsewhere and Elsewhen that Luz would somehow become part of another time loop wherein she has to save herself and her friends as Luzura. And when Luz walked back into the demon realm wearing her Halloween costume, it confirmed for me that Azura and Luz are one and the same. Time travel works on a fixed timeline in the Owl House, meaning that Luz will be put in a situation where she has to fulfill her destiny to become Azura, and the inspiration of her favorite book series. As always, J.K. Rowling and her bad opinions can F off to the moon, but I think that we're gonna have a similar scene in the next 2 episodes to the ending of Prisoner of Azkaban. When Harry, Hermione, and Sirius are attacked by Dementors in real time, Harry sees a figure across the lake that he believes to be his dad, casting the Patronus that saves their lives. Later, Hermione and Harry go back to the scene via Time Turner, and Harry fully expects to see his father's stag, but when Hermione gently reminds him that no one is coming, he realizes that it's up to him to cast a Patronus and save his own life. He later claims that he was able to cast it because, after seeing himself do it already, he knew he could do it again. I predict that we'll see Luz's Azura moment in a similar way. My theory is that we'll see her take another dip in the time pools in the final episode to stop the Collector or Bellows. At a pivotal moment, she'll realize that the storyline of the Good Witch Azura is happening to her in real time and will know exactly what to do to fight back.
Now eat this, sucker! No!
Those who witness the event will pass down the story until it's written, and eventually makes its way to Manny Noceda in the human realm to give to his daughter. In the same way that Luz was able to read entries from Philip's diary before she even knew that she was a part of these past events, means that Luz's dad was able to read about her adventures in the Boiling Isles before she even had them. Time travel seems almost to be guaranteed, as through the Owlbeast's memories, we saw a version of the Collector capture them in the past. Then there's the Collector's unfinished poem about getting revenge on something that rhymes with unity. My guess, the full rhyme ends in Lumity. Both Luz and Amity share their cosmic motifs with the Collector, so somehow I feel like they're gonna have to come together to eclipse his power and reseal him into his glass prison, perhaps even trapping them in a time loop. Those are just some of my biggest theories after watching thanks to them, but there's so much more from the Season 3 premiere that I want to cover. Turn on your notifications because our next video will be a breakdown of all the Easter eggs and details you might have missed in the episode. I really want to know what you guys think about these theories in the comments. Like and subscribe to our channel and check out our TikTok where we'll be posting more bite-sized breakdowns of our favorite animated series. I'm Scarlet Wit and you're watching Whitney Vision.